So, look into that camera.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yes.
And on 3, say cheese. 1, 2, 3, cheese. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I'm Mike Parker.
And I'm Lance.
And I'm Mike.
And we are just these guys, you know?
Hey, guys.
We are just three guys,
Three
you know.
guys. We're just three guys today.
Welcome, Ryan.
The three amigos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got so for you, and I went Bible study, Pierce in line, resident line, and resident of self in the Bible study.
He does a Bible study through his church, FUMCR.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And he wanted to share that with you.
Well, cool.
And
Yeah.
this morning you wanted to do Bible study, right?
Yeah. I went here behind the field talking about Star Wars.
Your dad gave me a deal that you put together that connects heaven with Star Wars. It was super cool.
Remember that PowerPoint you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Right.
aligned the Star Wars story
Yeah.
with Jesus and heaven and
Yeah. See, this isn't, and this isn't, and boy, one of the gaming child, and name's Luke.
yeah,
Luke.
Luke Skywalker.
Yes, Luke
Luke with the
Skywalker. Always wanted to be Luke Skywalker.
Well, how's you been, Mike?
I have been, man, I'm having a good summer.
Are you?
Having a really good summer.
Yeah.
Enjoying, well, there's so many things about the summer that are good. The weather's been amazing. Had great rains. You know, it hasn't been too hot. That's coming, I'm sure. But, man, I've had some good lake trips. We've had some good Sundays. It's just been a great summer.
I'm glad to hear it.
Enjoying it.
I am glad to hear it.
How about you?
We've had a great summer so far. We've been working and swimming and doing all sorts of things.
It's a good time to be.
Created a new PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. All 2 years in who I am.
All 2 years of who I am.
Wow.
I don't know where he comes up with these things.
All 2 years. So the last 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's in class point in line. He's teaching me every day.
That's awesome.
He wants to do his own crash course class online. So he's been doing PowerPoints
Nice.
to teach crash course.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. FC and online. I got boys and us and girls and us together.
That would be awesome to do FUMCR online with boys and girls.
Absolutely.
Maybe one day the dream comes true.
Yeah, he's coming again. Us.
Mm-hmm.
And I got pastor names is Allison Jean.
Allison Jean,
He's MCR.
Ah.
FUMCR.
One of the pastors?
Yeah, it's a new name, you.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, we were privileged to be bestowed some wisdom from Paul Attwater. He's shared this with us a number of times, and he sent us the actual fully written out bit of decision-making wisdom.
Yeah.
And thought we could talk about that this morning, and I know you have it on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you wouldn't mind sharing it with our audience.
Yeah. So kind of in the direction this morning or today of how's your summer going? You asked me that question.
Sure.
Well, so much of it starts right here. Starts with, well, where we've been lately, which is changing the way we think,
Yes.
controlling what we can control, stop trying to control what we don't,
Correct.
and it helps you to make better decisions.
It does.
And so Mr. Paul Attwater sent us this a few thoughts on making good decisions by Paul Attwater, and he says this. He says, it is important to make good decisions. Isn't that the truth?
I would agree.
And how many of
I would
us?
agree.
I can't believe how many years I've spent. Now, here we go. Right here. Okay, I'm not even going to go there.
Well,
I'm going to live in the now.
No. But those who do not remember their history are destined to repeat it.
Well, it's true.
So if we look back and see how we were making decisions,
Sure.
that we're like, dang, man, why did I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, what was I thinking?
Man, for so
And
long.
that's the key. You hear that all the time. What was I thinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Well,
and that's where we go dig into, is not the
Yeah.
decision, but what was I thinking that
Sure.
led to the
yeah,
decision.
That's true. But never really fully processed that.
Right.
And what
Dang,
was
man.
I doing? What was I thinking? Yeah. But he says it's important to make good decisions, and we can start, Ryan, with why we make bad decisions. So that's actually really good. Now you wouldn't say that that's a bad thing.
Well, I would say this is fantastic, and he's mentioned it to me a number of times, and I think it explains when people are making bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
The fundamentals would have him go one step further and flip over how to make good decisions. But I think once you hear how we make bad decisions, then it starts to become obvious
Yeah.
how to make good decisions. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
Absolutely. So it says we make bad decisions when, number one, they are urgent. So we're making urgent decisions. Number two, they are emotional. I've never done that. And number three, they are under the influence. Now, what does that mean? And he goes on to say this. And under the influence isn't about what we eat, drink, or smoke. It is about who we surround ourselves with, or how we let media, that's a big, media and social media influence our thoughts and feelings. Boom.
That is powerful.
That's good.
Yeah, yes.
What are we letting in? What are we surrounding ourselves with? And the thing is, we completely control that.
Yeah. And I saw you in the Heroes Academy summer. Day program.
Heroes Academy Day Program.
You know, and the kids us and the real group in there.
Yeah, the kids in the group, and
Yeah.
they surround you with good people
They help him.
that help.
I went to the dice and the bowling. I remember many hours, 3 days morning.
So you go bowling,
Bowling.
Yeah,
and you do meals on
me
wheels.
wheels.
Oh,
Off me.
yeah. That's so cool.
And he works out
Yeah,
at the gym.
Jim and I was Jim and Dad of Amy Morse.
Right. He goes with the family Moores to go to the
Wow.
gym to work out. And so he's under the influence
Right.
Yes.
of healthy people who have his best interest in mind. We make bad decisions when we're making them urgently, when things are urgent.
Yeah.
And that's worry, that's fear, that's not anger, but mainly worry and fear. We feel we got to make a decision right now. We gotta.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamental number two, there's pressure,
Right.
stress to get something done. We're worried about what's going to happen next.
Yeah. The number of urgent decisions is pretty startling when you really sit back and consider how we live life under the, what's it called, the tyranny of the urgents. When it doesn't have to be that way.
Panic,
Mm-hmm.
Like,
fear.
Yeah.
we oh my God!
Yeah.
Gotta make a decision.
Well, and I think a lot of that comes from how incredibly powerful the element of denial is in our lives, where we will avoid.
Sure.
We just deny that it's even an issue. I'll deal with that later. And all of a sudden, here it is. It's time to make a decision.
Right. We something comes up, and I don't know if you ever did this, but back in the day when I was extremely poor,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I get the light bill,
Yep.
put it in the desk drawer.
Sure.
Close the desk drawer.
Yep.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
If
Yep.
I don't see it,
Yep.
and eventually that drawer starts to, push
Pile
itself
up.
open.
Yep.
Can't shove anything more into it. And
Yep. Yeah.
suddenly things become urgent.
Yeah, I used to roll over in the morning and I would look at my alarm clock, not to see what time it was, but to see if it was on. Because that meant that the electricity hadn't been shut off yet.
Yeah.
And they could do that. They'd get, of course, I'm in bed at noon. and so they could have, and they would usually come in the mornings and shut it off.
Sure.
They would knock on the door first.
Right.
And ask you to pay your bill.
Right.
And, because it was all still in person.
Yeah.
And so I would ignore the knock, still deep in my denial, and then wake up later on to look and see if it was still on. And if it was still on, I'd hit the snooze button. Because I'm still, it was a way of life. It was an unfortunate, it was a decades-long series of bad decisions.
And we're just a couple of guys, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that I was making bad financial decisions and
Sure.
Out of urgency.
Right.
Just before these four fundamentals really started to kind of coagulate and come together and kind of become a way of connecting with God and figuring out His will and walking that path instead of walking my path. It was
bet.
It was an urgency every single day
Right.
to make more money and to pay more bills and to make more money and to pay more bills.
Yeah. And the crazy thing of it is that when you make urgent decisions, they're pretty much all going to be emotional. So these all just fit together.
Sure. Number two,
Yeah.
when we make decisions based on emotions, we're making bad decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. How many relationships, we'll just say relationships in general, would still be going but have broken down, but would still be going strong if we just didn't make decisions in emotional moments?
Oh, yeah.
And
I'd be out of a job.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be doing near the number of meetings with folks that are just living in a urgent scenario.
Oh, yeah. The emotional, anger.
Right.
We're angry at somebody, so we make a decision in that moment.
Yeah.
We're hurt. We make a decision in that moment. And those things tend to snowball.
Yeah. And if you think about it, our days are basically filled going from one decision to the next. If I was to think about how many decisions I've made today, and it's not even 8 o'clock.
Right.
It's how our lives go. And so it's critical that we make good decisions.
Yeah.
But we do this almost robotically. And we do it with a default. We're defaulted to bad decisions if that's the pattern that we have established and just continue to live in. But it can change. It can be different. And so that's what excites me about this whole idea of changing the way you think. And decisions are obviously a huge part of it. And so this essentially is thinking. You got to think through your decisions.
Right.
But how many of us don't think through decisions?
When we make decisions that are urgent, when we make decisions that are emotional, we're probably going to do things we regret or at the very least not see the better option.
Yes. And the thing is, we all sit here and we go, I know this. I know this. And that yet review. Well, how are you doing?
Well, we know these things, and then when the emotions hit, when the fear hits, when the anger hits,
Mm-hmm.
we start making those fight or flight decisions to run away, to avoid the bill, to yell at somebody.
Yeah.
And we're doing it urgently. We're doing it. I almost caught it. Doing it urgently. We're doing it emotionally.
And we're doing it many times under the influence. So that under the influence can go way even beyond media and social media and the people that you have around you. Literally, it's everything.
Right.
What are you under the influence of? And so that's a lot of times on a Sunday, I'll take the opportunity to say, you don't have to live under your circumstances. You can live above your circumstances when your focus is on the hope that you have, the life that you can have, every opportunity that is there when you live in the power of Christ, and you change the way you think. It's just so good. It's all right there.
Sure.
And yet I still have people who, when you even begin to mention the opportunity to make, and I'm not trying to be hypocritical. I've got areas that I struggle in, but you tell them that it can be better. They still, it really truly is. It's almost like misery just is a part of life, and I things can't change. I'm not going to be able to do this, and it's
one of the things that
unfortunate.
Under the influence, one of the things that we don't recognize how much we are influenced by what's going on around us.
Mm-hmm.
But, what is success? What is fun? What is enjoyable? How do we have those things? I had a buddy years ago call me with a philosophical question, because he explained that he and his wife, and these are well-to-do people, had taken their, I'm shading some of this because the audience doesn't know him.
Right.
So he and his wife took their $100,000 car and drove down to Dallas to stay in a $500 night hotel and to have dinner and to do shopping and to go to the theater and just, try to have a fun weekend. And on the way back, there's that turnout sign that says scenic turnout, Turner Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he's driven that route, a million times, and he's always wondered what this Turner Falls thing is. And so he says to his wife, it's early, why don't we go check it out, see what this is. And he pulled off the road, went over to this Turner Falls thing, which I've not been to. I know exactly what he's talking about. I've never been there myself.
Yeah.
But he said he rolls up. Now, keep in mind, and he's explaining this to me, he's probably just spent $3,000 or $4,000 this weekend.
Sure.
With his, $100,000 car, his $10,000 worth of clothing and jewelry he and his wife are wearing. And they pull over to this Turner Falls, and he says to me, Lance, these people were in cut-off denim shorts that used to be jeans, and they were sitting on white buckets from the back of their station wagon and pickup, and they had sandwiches that they packed in a bread bag, and they looked happy.
How could that be possible?
That was the deal. He said they looked happy. How is that possible? How do you explain that to somebody that, and that's why they went, to Dallas for the weekend, was to find happiness, to go have fun. Mm-hmm. And they, spent. They bought the car that the society says you buy when you're rich. They bought the clothes that are said to impress other people. They had the jewelry to look blingy. They went to the best hotels and the finest restaurants and did the shopping to find happiness.
Yeah.
But he did not know he was not happy until he actually saw true happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And that true happiness did not come from dollar bills.
Nope.
And it blew his mind so much that he called and he asked another person that question.
Yeah.
he asked that question out loud. He said the quiet part out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Are they really happy?
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing.
Yeah.
Materially.
Right.
How can they be happy?
Mm.
And so he's under the influence of a broader world, a broader society. This is how you're supposed to live. These are the cars you're supposed to drive. This is how you're supposed to enjoy your weekend. That's what's influencing him, is his image of what true happiness is and how to live life. And so, yeah, under the influences, I could be drunk, make bad decisions. I could be stoned to make bad decisions. Paul took it one step further and said, the people in your arena, the people who are talking to you, the people who are chirping in your ear.
Right.
You may, not you, Lance, back in the day, may have made a silent decision, but I'm going to go out tonight, but I'm not going to drink. And when I get to the bar and order a water, everybody would unload on me. What are you doing drinking water? Here, let me get you a beer. Like, no. And within 10 minutes, I'm influenced
Sure.
into drinking.
I was one of the people giving the water drinker crap.
I used to do that to a buddy of mine named Tom. I've never spoken about Tom. We're going to do it here publicly for a second.
Okay.
But Tom actually had a good brain in his head. He was he was a good guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he had the unfortunate encounter of hanging out with me and Chris and being stationed with us, and we would get dressed and get our hair combed and Tom, let's go. And Tom would say, no, I'm staying in tonight. I'm trying to save money. No, I want to stay in tonight. And we'd push him. Tom,
under the influence.
this could be the best night of your life.
You're going to miss out.
We'd sing to him,
Mm-hmm.
You lost that love.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom would just, he would resist us so mightily, but we would just keep up the pressure. And I don't know why it mattered to us
Mm-hmm.
to not leave the man alone and let him make good decisions.
Peer pressure.
Misery loves company.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and again, to just echo what you said earlier, sometimes the best way to move forward is to look back for a minute and make sure that you don't repeat what you did in the past. This whole idea of making better decisions it's just a huge thing. But again, what's important is it's almost like have a conversation with somebody about it. Don't just listen to this and keep it to yourself, but find somebody that you trust and say, you know what, I heard about this. Maybe this is a way to introduce somebody else to the podcast.
Sure.
But you have, there's so much power that comes in speaking what you're challenged with, or speaking what you're struggling with someone. Again, someone you trust, someone that, is going to keep it to themselves. This is a personal conversation. But you bring it out from the dark. You bring it out into the open. And
light is the best sanitizer.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we're all in this together, though, when it comes to this challenge of making better decisions. And life is too darn short to continue to live in the mire of our poor decisions.
Now I'm going to say something, and if you're new to the podcast, you won't get it. So
Sure.
Go back to podcast 11 and watch the next 9 podcasts.
Yep.
Listen to them. That's a lot of podcasts.
Little horse impression.
But the antidote, I know you want to speak. Give me a second.
Yeah, I went.
had
went.
your second.
I was over you. This is Saturday in March, and 22 years ago, I went here.
That's when you pulled up the video of
video online.
you making
Right here in this room?
Yeah, right room.
the Star Wars,
And a wall.
Nice.
making the Star Wars podcast right there. Star
That's
Wars
awesome.
video.
Yeah, and that's because he's moving in the air. He's watching the video line.
Yep, I moved the desk over here, and
Yeah.
you made the video to go online.
I remember seeing it.
Back.
But back from commercial break.
Yeah, he's he's learning about gods and Dark Knight, and his path.
In the past.
That's awesome.
And yeah, he's controlling the plane and around and on the guys and call him and orders the 66 movie come out.
66.
And this is Star Wars 19 years come out.
Oh, it came out 19 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you did a review on it?
Yeah, yeah, this Disney Plus and TV movie come out. Yeah, Star Wars and
You reviewed all the Star Wars.
awesome Star Wars in there.
Revenge of the Sith, Last Hope. You did them
Hope.
all.
Well,
It was a 3-hour
3 years
festival.
Star Wars.
Yes.
Now in the video, you said we were to do two things. You remember what you told you said it's simple.
Yeah,
Remember what you said?
yeah. He's sheets is a gift for her, and hands and babies are your boy.
Yeah, but in the video you said love God, love people.
And God love people.
That's it.
That's it.
Whoa. That is actually how you can live your life when you get rid of bad decisions and simplify things. And free yourself up to do the two most important things that you can do. The most important decision that you can make is to love God and love people.
Yeah.
What a great, you talk about finding true joy, true happiness, is living in the freedom of being able to just live every day loving God. So if you're going to love God, you're going to spend time thinking about Him, wanting to be in His presence, loving God, and then naturally that flows into loving others. When you have this part right, this part flows into loving others. So,
And by this part, Mike is pointing up in the air.
yeah.
This part, our connection, our relationship with God. When we have
Yes.
this part right,
Yes.
then it naturally connects with us and flows out. And that is the exact opposite of decision making from how we make bad decisions, urgent, emotional, under the influence. We're living in fear. We're letting our emotions rule us, get the better of us. We're listening to, most often, if it's a bad decision, we're listening to other people. We're fearing what they will think or say. We're worried about what they... Now, you said a couple of weeks ago, which is kind of mind-blowing, and sometimes when you blow my mind, I'm just like stunned and I don't show it. But it's like, oh, he just slapped me in the face. But you said, imagine how many relationships could be saved if you walked into that situation and looked at it and said, what's my role in all of this?
Mm-hmm.
And stayed there.
Sure.
And that is the exact opposite decision making than what Paul has laid out here. What is my role and how do I love God and love people?
Mm-hmm.
Then make your decision.
Sure.
And it's probably going to be a different decision.
Oh, yeah. And you talk about the challenge of living under our circumstances. That those are a whole lot better circumstances to live with.
And then you can be happy with a bread bag.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. And you just, You know, one of the things that I highly recommend, I highly recommend this, is if you want to have a better perspective on just how blessed you are, and to have your perspective help you with your priorities, go volunteer at Meals on Wheels. It is so amazing to watch how people, they light up when you bring them something that they really, and it's more the visit than it is the food.
Yeah.
It's more the showing them that somebody cares. It's more the showing them that, they call it a wellness visit. Well, it's a caring visit. It's a compassion visit. It's a love visit, and it's huge. And everybody should have that opportunity to do that. And they're all over.
In church the other day, you were saying July is going to be different.
Yep.
The services for the 5 Sundays in July are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of following along that same concept there.
Absolutely.
That Jesus met with people over meals.
Yep.
A great deal.
Yeah, that's right.
For the listening audience out there, in July, Grace Point will be doing one service every Sunday.
Yep.
10 a.m. immediately followed by a meal.
Yep. We're going to get the family together. It's going to be full. I mean, it's going to be standing room only, but it kind of like I said, I know I said it in the first service. I don't know if I said it in the second last week, but the whole idea is we might want to get used to standing room only, because the idea is that that's what we want heaven to look like.
Right.
I'm sure there's plenty of space up there, but we want it to be crowded. That's our goal.
Yes.
That so many people know about the love of Jesus, that they know and they desire not just to go themselves, but we take as many people with us as we can.
And that, Ryan said in his video, love God, love people. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that truly all it is. That is all it is. That
Yep.
is the cornerstone of it all. Churches, and with the capital C, the corporate churches, the people, they make it all weird.
Yeah.
They make it awkward and weird and
complicated.
And it's actually very simple.
Yeah. So do us a favor real quick, because this just warmed my heart. It was when you shared your observation of Ryan and his friends as they were bowling. Because that kind of speaks to all of this in terms of just simplifying your life, and it comes from making better decisions, but just what you've learned from your relationship and observing Ryan and his awesomeness.
Well, yeah, that story about when he was doing the Special Olympics bowling.
Yeah.
And everybody showed up to the bowling alley, and they had their bowling balls and their bowling shoes.
16 years.
Yep. And they, run to their bowling lane. They would, drop their balls, start getting on their shoes. They're hugging each other, happy to see each other, haven't seen each other in 3 days.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And they're all smiling. They're all just happy to be there, and not a single one sat down. They just huddle around the ball return.
Yeah.
And patting each other on the back, and they're looking up at the scoreboard where the names are. And over there where the names are. They're looking up at the scoreboard where the names are, and they're figuring out who goes next, and they would, read somebody's name, like, oh, it's Ryan.
Yeah.
And they run, grab Ryan, and, very happily tell him, it's your turn, it's your turn, it's your turn. And then Ryan run over and get his ball, and he'd line up, he'd hold that ball up in the air, and he'd line up and tongue out, and he'd do his best approach and throw the ball, strike a pose, and it would gutter.
Yeah.
And it was just a shucks, a snap of the finger, and then run straight back to the ball chute. And, 8 kids got their head down in the ball chute waiting for Ryan's ball to come back.
Yep.
Get it, and do it all again. And there was no anger, there was no disappointment, there was no sadness, there was no getting down on themselves. That moment is now gone. Standing in front of me right now is another chance to knock those pins down.
Boom.
And if they got a strike, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
If you hit the pins, the celebration was on. They would all jump and clap and yell and go hug each other. And as I was watching all of that, that to me, that was a fully encompassing snapshot of all 4 of these fundamentals. They were living in the present moment. They weren't thinking about what happened 2 seconds ago.
Sure. Yeah.
Let alone 5 years ago. They weren't worried about what other people thought, about how they looked. They didn't care how they looked to other people, if they looked silly or not silly, if they looked cool, not cool. And they weren't worried about what tomorrow was going to bring. They were living in that moment, and inside that moment, the only thought in their head was, I want to do well.
Yeah.
And there was no, I have to do this. I gotta be a good bowler. I have to hit these pins. And there's no worrying about what happens if I don't hit the pins. What if my score doesn't measure up? And
Sure.
definitely no negative thinking. There
Yeah.
was no don't wants, didn't, none of that. It was simply, it boils down to those 2 concepts. In this moment, it's the only thing I control. And how am I going to think about all of this? And they were 100% laser locked in on what they wanted. And so when they're bowling, that's what they're thinking, and that was completely evident. But then the people around the bowler were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They were in that moment, and they wanted their friend to do well.
Yep.
And if their friend missed, there's a little bit of disappointment, but there was instant encouragement.
Sure.
And hugging and patting on the back and do it again.
Yeah.
And then the next moment, they're back up there ready to go again. And everybody is filled with hope that this is the time. And, there's that movie where Dumb and Dumber.
My favorite movie.
At the end when, the character, Jim Carrey's character, says to the beautiful ladies, is there a chance that a girl like you and a guy like me could end up together? And she says, 1 in a billion.
Yep.
And he smiles and says, so you're saying there's a chance?
You're telling me there's a chance.
And what better way to live life?
Yeah.
What
That's
better way
it.
to live life?
That's
Live
it.
in the moment. Focus on what you want. And when you, like you were saying earlier, when you pull inside you and say, what do I want? Suddenly that door opens up for God to now speak to you.
Yep.
I've got a plan for you.
Yep.
You want to know my plan?
Yep.
You want to serve me?
Yep. And so I'll just share this thought. It's okay to be okay with making decisions on who you have around you. As a matter of fact, it's critical, I think.
Sure.
And it's okay to, I'm leading up to that, it's okay to love some people from a distance.
Sure.
If you find yourself surrounded with people who don't want you to do well, that might be a really good place to start loving some folks just from a distance.
Sure.
Doesn't mean you have to hurt them. Doesn't mean, but you can certainly quit allowing them to have influence over you that you're just giving away.
Exactly.
And again, because misery loves company, some people are just not going to want you to succeed, because that means you're going to be stepping away from the lack of success that they're experiencing.
Oh, yeah.
And that might be hard to hear, and that may be the majority of the relationships that you're in right now, but it's critical for us to again, recognize what and who we're under the influence of.
And when we have that freedom, when we give ourselves that freedom to make those kinds of decisions, what you're talking about is developing boundaries.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
And then setting limits on yourself. You don't set limits on other people. You can't control them.
Yep, that's right.
You identify the boundaries so you know what you're responsible for, me, myself, and I. Once you decide what those boundaries are, you then set limits on yourself. How much influence and power am I going to give that other person over my life?
Yep.
Certain people you may allow to have more influence over your life.
Sure.
And other people you may decide it's probably best to step back and give them less influence.
Absolutely. And all of this also leads us to being a better influence is one thing. It's a better motivator. It's a better, think about what influence you have on others.
Sure.
Are you a healthy influence in their life? And if not, admit it.
Yeah.
Admit that there's some things that you want to change and start with you.
Lead by example.
Yeah, absolutely. So, good stuff, Ryan.
Good stuff. Thanks so much for being here today, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I win the Best Olympics basketball game.
Special Olympics basketball. He's a basketball star.
Nice.
Well, we're going to wrap up now.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ryan, for being our special guest today. And if we're lucky, we may get to see you again next week here
Beautiful.
on Just These Guys. Would you like to do it again? One more time?
Yeah,
Yeah? With Pastor Mike?
Heck yeah. Let's do it.
So
Yeah.
look into that camera and say, I'm Ryan.
I'm Ryan Parker. I'm CA pastor.
you're the crash course pastor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he is.
Mike.
And I am Lance, and we are Just These Guys, you know. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll catch you next week.
Have an awesome week.
Next Tuesday.